Welcome into another episode of the BCJ podcast brought to you, as always, by our great partners at the Holy Grail. Even though the Reds lost a crushing one today, I'm sure the beer was still ice cold and the food still delicious down at the Grail. Make sure you stop by before, after, during your Reds, Bearcats, Bengals games, and visit the people that support us as they have done for a long time. Great partners, and baseball season's drawing to a close, but we'll have plenty of post-game, pre-game Bearcat watch parties with Chad and everybody else there for the road games. So make sure you support them and head downtown to the Holy Grail. Head downtown to the Holy Grail this weekend during the Kroger Wellness Festival. You might even catch me on Friday out and about doing some real ops work. But with that, we are back, and we are joined by a good friend, Colin Kennedy, who happens to have been on this show twice, and Oklahoma has now gotten a commitment both times right as we've about to start the show. So we are clearly a bit of good luck for the Sooners recruiting department. Are they going to send any, gear or residual thank yous our way, do you think?
An NIL deal, perhaps.
Yes.
I'm not 100% certain. But yeah, man, we were talking about it before we go live. Both times I have hopped on this show with y'all. And of course, thank you for having me. Always excited to be here at that Cincinnati site in America. But both times, just before the start of these live streams, Oklahoma has landed a 4-star defensive end in the class of 2024 who has seen his commitment timeline go completely off the rails. If you'll remember correctly, OU fans who have tuned in, Wyatt Gilmore committed the last time I was on the show with these guys. Gilmore did not have a timeline set at all. We just got a notice, hey, it's going to happen sometime soon. We didn't know when. He popped literally just before I hopped on the show, and now here we are. Danny Okoye commits to Oklahoma. But he had also forgotten his keys in his car. So a lot of anxiety before I hop on the show. OU fans probably want me on here a whole bunch with y'all, but my anxiety levels are just through the roof before I hop on.
He gave me even like 15 minutes to spare. So you were all good there. Before we get into this game, this first Big 12 game for the Bearcats, this segment, when we talk Big 12, is always brought to you by Team Ticker. I don't have the ad read. Chad's not on yet, but Team Ticker is damn awesome. It's like a mini scoreboard in your house, continuously running updates, schedules, scores. When your team scores, it lets you know. I think it's 7 minutes of continuous information about your team. Aaron's got the big Bearcat behind him. We got Michigan State now. They got Penn State now. 25% off your purchase. It says starting this Saturday.
Whoa, $25. Let's make sure.
$25. Yeah, sorry. I got the wrong symbol there. But it says this Saturday. This ad's been up for a week or so. We hope it's still accurate. The dad is out playing volleyball with his kid. So blame that. Blame me. I don't know all the details. But Team Ticker, awesome. Bearcat, are we Bearcat alums? Is that accurate, Aaron?
Yeah, the Team Ticker was started by Bearcat alums.
There we go, Bearcat alums. So again, support your fellow Bearcats. Hopefully come Saturday about 3:30. It's like shooting off fireworks with the big upset in the nip. But again, Colin Kennedy joining us. Let's get into this game. Dylan Gabriel. I want to start. I almost always start with quarterbacks. Guy has been on fire through 3 games, one of the highest efficiency passers in the country, one of the, best, has the highest, him and Emory Jones actually lead the Big 12 on completion percentage, basically on deep ball throws. What has he improved on a lot from last year? And, kind of like what are the biggest factors to the early success that he's had running the OU offense?
Yeah, man, it's funny to think about this too, David. He's probably looking even better if a couple of drops by Oklahoma wide receivers are catches. I mean, I keep thinking about that. He's at what, 82.5% completion, and it's probably up closer to like 85 or something nuts if a couple of guys bring in the football. But yeah, look, we can get into the numbers, right? I mean, you mentioned it briefly. If you go look at Sooners Illustrated or whatever, you're going to find out statistically that this dude is legitimately on fire. But then you turn on the tape, and this dude is legitimately dealing. Like, I'm pretty sure he's averaging about a little more than 11 yards per completion. So it's not like it's dink and dunk all the time, which there have been episodes of that, David. But for the large part, whenever Dylan has been asked to distribute the football to all portions of the field, he has delivered time and again. And I think that what Dylan has done a lot better, number one, I think what has helped him out is a little bit more of continuity around him. And maybe not necessarily from a personnel standpoint, right? But last year, Dylan was really the only guy who had a ton of familiarity with this system. Obviously, he had spent time with Jeff Lebby at UCF. They were there together when the Knights were just on fire offensively. And so when Gabriel made his last-minute transfer, he was stepping in as kind of a very fresh face, but was really the only guy who knew what he was doing when Lebby was making the calls. And outside of that, I mean, once you get more members of the depth chart familiar with what you're trying to accomplish offensively, like, that's going to help the quarterback position naturally. But I think as well, he stayed healthy, right? I mean, this is a guy who time and again has seen his seasons derailed by unfortunate injuries. Specifically, for the most part, like upper body injuries, which has been scary. And the next part of that, too, is I think his arm's gotten really strong. He's accurate again, but sometimes there were questions about, could he complete the deep ball? Like, could he push the ball downfield enough so that receivers didn't have to adjust, get back underneath it? Could he hit certain spots on the field? Like, he maybe had tendencies as a quarterback that would tell you, okay, if they're going to throw the football, they're likely targeting this certain section of the field. And that's not really the case anymore. So Dylan has become a complete quarterback. And whether or not you want to argue, he's either gotten bigger, faster, stronger, or more experienced, or he's been pushed by Jackson Arnold, I don't really care what you want to say. The guy is just on fire right now, and he is the unquestioned leader of this Oklahoma team.
Yeah, it is interesting because I remember when we talked over the summer, it wasn't, I don't think it was a real thing, but like we talked openly about, like, could Jackson Arnold get, like, could he be the starting quarterback by the time this game happened? And that's clearly not the case. I mean, he's played some because they've blown out 2 other 3 opponents, but he's not. This is not a quarterback competition in the slightest.
No, and what's funny is when we were talking about this last time here on the show, Dave, like, we were saying, okay, what's the realistic timeline? And I was saying, in my opinion, this was Gabriel's job up until around the bye week to Texas week, right? I mean, they were going to let this guy ride it out. It's his last year in Oklahoma officially. They wanted to see if he could truly take command of this offense and of this team in general. And if he could, they felt good about the success level that they could have. Now, a little bit of a preview towards this game, because you mentioned it, Jackson Arnold is playing, like you mentioned. But it's not just garbage time either. I mean, Oklahoma has built in a package for him that fans are ironically calling the jackhammer right now. They don't have a catch name like the Belldozer back in the day with Blake Bell, so it's the jackhammer for the time being. Hasn't been up to snuff. I think a lot of fans in Oklahoma are still kind of questioning the Jackson Arnold package feature, but no one's questioning Dylan Gabriel, and that's huge. I mean, I can't understate or overstate like how important that is for Oklahoma, because if you could have both of those guys playing well, and if you could have Dylan Gabriel distributing, it would allow Jackson Arnold to settle in, contribute in certain ways, exactly like you're saying, but then also you'd have a guy who's very familiar with exactly what you're trying to accomplish, go out there and execute, and you're not having to ask a freshman to do that job. So it's worked out perfectly for Oklahoma.
I think, like, looking into the season, that there was talent, but also some unknowns with the pass catchers, and who's maybe exceeded expectations so far for you guys.
Yeah, man, it's interesting because going into this game, it's kind of a strength on strength scenario in some ways, but there are also some some areas of the field that I want to familiarize myself a little bit more with this matchup. And I think that definitely starts with the battle between Cincinnati's pass coverage and Oklahoma's passing game. I mean, this is one where Nick Anderson has really started to come into his own, former highly rated player out of Katy, Texas. If you know anything about Texas high school football, Katy is a powerhouse.
Andy Dalton, baby. The red
traditional, just as good as it gets. Andy Dalton, former Cincinnati Bengals quarterback, is a Katy product. Nick Anderson was in a very pro-style offense, wasn't able to be a true wide receiver, then got to Oklahoma, got banged up. He learned how to be a professional at Katy, but he wasn't able to actually get on the field at Oklahoma because of some injuries. Now that he's healthy, I mean, he's been really impressive. Jaleel Farouk has really started to come on as of late. We knew he'd be the number one wide receiver type, but between attention he's getting and maybe some early kinks being worked out in this offense, you've seen him over the past couple of games get more attention and targets. Andrell Anthony is the guy coming in from Michigan who has, I think he's arguably been the biggest storyline within this Oklahoma offense out of the gate. And why is that? He not only has contributed in a major way statistically, but he's blocked well in the run game, and he plays his role extremely well. Even when he's not getting the big catch, David, like he essentially plays the role within this Oklahoma offense and Jeff Levy's system, where he's going to be the guy that stretches the field vertically and will either obviously make those defensive backs play back and create space underneath him, or he's going to get that PI call because he's just constantly stressing you out down the field. And then you've got Gavin Freeman, the former walk-on wide receiver who's played well. Drake Stoops. I don't need to talk about Drake Stoops. Long story short, we knew they had talent, like you mentioned, but it was a matter of who was going to step up. And it's kind of weird to say that, like, generally they all have.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can't have a passing offense that's been as successful as theirs if it's just one or two guys. Like, it kind of has to spread out between everybody. In the SMU game, they were slowed down considerably and, scored 2 late touchdowns real quick to make it look a lot different than it probably really was. What did SMU do in that game that obviously Arkansas State and Tulsa couldn't do, but that you see with what they do defensively might be able to replicate?
Yeah, it was fascinating. That SMU game, I learned a ton about how teams perceive this offense, a unique approach that was taken in order to maybe throw Oklahoma off their game. And the basis of it, David, was cover 3. So I watched the tape back after that offensive struggle, and I'm looking, and I'm like, all right, they're throwing a ton of zone looks, but because of the TV cut, obviously,
you can't tell.
I couldn't tell exactly what they were doing. I could see that the corners were bailing out and they had a safety over the top in pre-snap, but obviously the buzz downs and all that stuff, you want to kind of get your variant. So I see what I think is cover 3. And I talked to some people I know at SMU, obviously living down here in DFW, and I was like, hey, look, you don't have to tell me anything. Just verify something for me if you can. Like, it's my own observation. Where y'all just running a ton of cover 3. And I got it confirmed. Yeah, like we were clever with it. Now I want to make it clear it wasn't just one simple look.
Right, like cloud coverage and a lot of different stuff with it. But yeah, they're not, which is it's going to make this game interesting because I'm not sure if UC knows how to play any zone. I mean, they're an in-your-face man-to-man team, and are they going to live and die with that strategy against this type of an offense, or do we see more looks like what SMU did?
And that's the biggest thing is you look at the Tulsa tape, and I wrote it in my rapid reactions and then again afterwards. Those first couple of drives, Tulsa's in man coverage, bringing safeties on a blitz, dropping them down and leaving corners on an island. And I legitimately was sitting on my couch at home like, what the hell are y'all doing? I mean, do you not know who you're playing right now? And so you saw the offensive explosion that was out in Tulsa, right? But in contrast, SMU's entire basis was we're going to protect the top, and then we're going to clog a bunch of throwing lanes underneath with a bunch of guys in the middle of the field in zone. We can essentially create those brackets, right? And so it's going to make things really hard to execute. whether it's deep, in the middle. And from there, we're just going to force you to either complete underneath, run the ball, or we're going to see if Dylan Gabriel wants to take off because we can close downhill and hurry. So it was a very smart game plan from SMU's defensive coordinator. And again, I was told by guys in SMU, like, our defensive coordinator is legit. Like, they had a lot of creative sort of approaches in that basis system. But yeah, I mean, it worked out. And I think it's something that I fully expect more teams to try and run against Oklahoma moving forward. But I think it's interesting, like you mentioned, if it's more a Cincinnati approach of like what we saw Tulsa do, then this is something where you're probably Oklahoma saying, let's go out and get this thing.
Yeah, I mean, you see pressures as much as any, like this staff, granted, it's only been 3 games, but the Louisville staff, I mean, they led the nation in sacks last year. We pressure play after, 4th and 9 against Pittsburgh. They brought 7 and sacked the quarterback on pretty much the game ending play. So it's like, with the amount of, Gabriel's certainly hitting deep shots, but I mean, they run a ton of quick game, a ton of horizontal stuff, just as much as vertical. So it's like, how much are you willing to do that and put your guys in continuous one-on-one situations where, how many times do you think that you'll be able to stop them from hitting those chunk plays?
Yeah, and I always like to go into games, right, and put the headset on, quote unquote, and say, all right, if I'm the defensive coordinator or I'm the offensive coordinator of this matchup, what am I doing? And in our chat today at Sooners Illustrated, I was asked about what kind of approach is there to be expected from Oklahoma in this game. And in my opinion, based on what Cincinnati can do pressure-wise, right, bringing a ton of guys, but then also I think a key note in this game, David, is that battle between Cincinnati's defensive front and Oklahoma's offensive line. I mean, if there is a weak point, arguably, it's this front 5 right now. And I think that they're really talented. When they're on, they maul people, but there's not a lot of continuity there. And it's shown at times. I mean, they might be playing a freshman tackle at left guard in this game. Both, obviously, tackles are essentially first-year starters, quote-unquote, at OU. Tyler Guyton's played with Oklahoma before, but first full season really getting his reps at right tackle. Walter Rouse came in from Stanford. He's played well at times, played poorly at times. Sometimes he's been the victim of a lot of penalty calls as well. I think the big thing there, and this is something that I obviously asked you for behind the enemy line stuff at Sooners Illustrated coming up. Like, what is this defensive line like outside of Dante Corleone? Because Oklahoma's talked about it all week this week.
Yeah, I mean, he's what he is. I mean, you don't have to watch too much to see what he is. But I think, and it's interesting you bring, that was kind of my next question, is UC strength is up front. How has OU's line play been? And it's interesting you bring up like possibly a freshman at guard and some quote unquote new starters at tackle. UC's D line is a power D line. Like, you have a 6th-year defensive end in Malik Van, and they're also old as hell. 6th-year defensive end in Malik Van. You got a 5th-year defensive end in Jawan Briggs. That, Briggs is another 300-pounder that's strong, super strong, whatever. But like, they don't really have the Nick Benito type for any of the Oklahoma fans that are listening. Like, their ends are 6'3", 6'4", 260, 270. Briggs, they play a 3-man front. Briggs is an end at 300. Van's in there at 270, 280. So they are a power defensive line that is older. So I think that'll be interesting how, with all of the blitzes that UC runs and all of the ways that they bring guys from different angles, how the Oklahoma, whether it's inexperience or just inconsistent play along the line, how they handle all that on Saturday.
Yeah, man, I think that if Oklahoma's offensive line comes to play, then there potentially is an advantage there, right? I mean, because of the pass. And that's the other thing, too, that I should mention to clarify. Oklahoma has been really good in pass protection so far, and understandably so. I mean, they've got guys on paper who should be elite offensive tackles. McCade Mettauer, right guards, played with them for a little bit now. He's been in college football for a long time. Andrew Rame, same thing, continuity there at center. And then they had Savion Byrd, young guy coming up at left guard. He's banged up. I'm not expecting him to play in this game. Potentially enter either Caden Green freshman who's been playing tackle but recently just got worked in a guard, or Troy Everett, a transfer who they brought in from App State.
UC recruited him too, so I'm familiar with that name.
Yeah, he might be playing left guard in this game as well. So they've protected well, but the run game stuff specifically has been a little bit of a weakness. So Cincinnati's defensive front being the big bodies that it is, right? If they're disrupting on run downs and you see them causing havoc in these run plays, I mean, I would assume that then naturally presents some issues because while OU's front five has pass protected well, when you're going up against those defensive linemen and with those frames and you're having to communicate, all right, we've got 6-man pressure, 7-man, whatever. That's a lot to handle, and it's why I'm really fascinated by the lines of scrimmage in this game.
Yeah. Not many offenses. I think OU's defense has probably been a big surprise, jumping from what they did last year to this year. And not many offenses have had success against them. When they have, which has been few and far between, I think they're averaging giving up less than 10 points a game so far. Has it been just a couple broken plays? Has anybody put any decent drives together? Like how has that looked?
Yeah, I think when there is success, a lot of it comes down to poor coverage in the back end. Now, there's two sides of this argument depending on who you are. If you're like the Oklahoma fans over at Sooners Illustrated, and I hear both sides of the argument. One side, a lot of those guys, they're new faces in the secondary. They haven't communicated well, busted coverages, a lack of awareness in zone, stuff like that. And I've seen that on tape, and I think in some instances that's a fair argument. But then the flip side of this, while Oklahoma has been elite in run defense, they have not necessarily rushed the passer at like an elite level.
I was going to say, I was looking at some stuff like 6 sacks and not a ton of just pressure in general.
Right. And so it's kind of like which side of the coin are you hoping to flip towards? Like you want heads or tails. And I think for me, I'll say this. When, like, for example, Cardell Williams came in for Tulsa, who was a really talented quarterback out of the Houston area. I mean, he came in and threw the ball downfield. When Preston Stone at SMU, when he was getting SMU's offense going a little bit, he was shifting the pocket, altering placement of the ball, and then finding the holes downfield. And it led to drives, not only maybe consistent drives, but that featured maybe some chunk plays.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that then comes down to Emory Jones' ability to not necessarily be a runner first. Is he able to extend the play rather than take over the play? Because I think if he does that, especially with some of the injuries that we're seeing in the secondary for Oklahoma right now, there could be opportunities downfield for him to move the chain.
You asked me in that article, you asked me about like him specifically, and I put probably the most surprising thing through 3 games to me has been his accuracy on the deep ball, which you mentioned earlier. Him and Gabriel have lead the conference in air yard throws over 20 yards. And especially against Pitt, when he was moving, he was unbelievably accurate, like in that 15 to 20 yard range on several big, like high leverage type throws. And that's really surprised me because, I mean, you can be accurate, but if you're just standing in one spot the whole time, but he's shown to be pretty accurate when they half roll him or he is forced to be outside the pocket. And so it'll be, interesting how that dynamic works because he's obviously going to run the ball. I mean, he ran the ball well. He's run the ball fairly well every game. And that kind of goes into what, kind of a theme is. Like, I imagine UC wants to run the ball, and run it some more, control the clock, and just see what the defense does. But, if you're saying that the best way to maybe beat them is to throw it over the, if you can protect, it makes, again, it's kind of like interesting because of the way we talked about offense and on your guys' offense and our defense being that we don't really see any zone, and that might be the best way to do it. And, you said that they've been good against the run. Has that been how much of that, I guess, do you think is what they've done versus the teams they've played? Like,
yeah, no, it's a fair
like
question.
I think they're going to see a totally different running. Like UC runs a wide zone scheme. I don't think anybody they played runs that, for one. And then just the caliber of the running back and how they want to run the ball with the running quarterback. Like, we'll get into this later, but like I'm just wondering how you guys view it as like, is this our first kind of like not litmus test that UC is some like great team or whatever? But I think they have more skill and more talent than anybody OU's played yet, especially when it's OU's offense versus UC's defense.
No, without a doubt. Like, it's a great question to ask because at the end of the day, so Brent Venables had a goal going into the season, right? Specifically from a run defense perspective, he wanted to cut the yards per carry average in half. Like, that was his goal. And to this point, like, they've accomplished that. They're averaging just 2.29 yards per rush attempt allowed to opponents. I think some of that has to do with the fact that the defensive depth has really helped here. Like Danny Stutzman, I think a year ago was just tackling all over the field, but was getting really tired, and he was catching guys at the second level. He's very disruptive because I think a lot of that has to do with their rotating guys. They're keeping him fresh. They're allowing him to be more aggressive. Yeah, I think some of it has to do with maybe Oklahoma itself rather than the opponents that they're playing. Because, again, I mean, I don't think they had more than 2 linebackers they trusted. So now I think another part of that, too, is the defensive line from a run game stuffing perspective, a lot better. Way better depth at defensive tackle. Rondell Bothroyd has come in and played well. Ethan Downs is playing well. But the other part of that, too, is like, I think SMU's a good team when it comes to running the football. I mean, do I think that they're great? Maybe not 100%.
Yeah, they're also like not committed to do it. Like that's not what their MO is. And then you blow out a couple teams. Well, they're not going to run the ball at all because they're if they have any interest in trying to win, at least they're not going to. So
yeah, I can't remember the exact number of throws Preston Stone had in that game, but I swear it was like in the mid 40s. I mean, he had to throw the ball a ton. Tulsa was a team that wanted to run the ball for obvious reasons, not only because they liked their running backs, but because they started the game out with their third string quarterback.
Yeah.
Both the top guys at quarterback had hurt something, and so it didn't work very well. And then OU comes out, scores on basically every single possession. What are you going to do? So yeah, like I think it's, again, there's a reason, the best way I can put it, there's a reason why Brent Venables has talked so much about Cincinnati's run game this week. I think he's legitimately been interested in this matchup. And Ted Roof, the defensive coordinator, has talked a lot about it as well. These players, like, I think that they all kind of understand it's a completely different defense from a run-stopping perspective because of the depth and the new personnel. I mean, so many guys on this defense, David, are new guys. I mean, that's just the bottom line. So they've improved in that aspect, but has that personnel faced a run game like Cincinnati's? I think they would tell you themselves, absolutely not.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because UC's, I mean, they're going to want to do that. They got big backs and a quarterback that is more than willing to run. So how much of that, do they have any early success with that, which maybe creeps up some guys? And then, I mean, they want to run the ball and throw it over the top. So,
dude, if I were Cincinnati and let's say I won the coin toss, I would receive the ball out of the gate. I mean, take the ball, run your offense, try and milk that clock and go put the ball in the end zone and immediately apply pressure. You know what I mean? Like, make it a little bit of a pressure situation for OU because I do think that they're legitimately nervous about this run game. And like you mentioned exactly, teams have been punched in the mouth by Oklahoma offensively and had to play the catch-up game. If Cincinnati does the opposite, I mean, now we're seeing a completely different scenario.
Hello,
Don't
Chad.
go 3 and out and give Oklahoma the ball back.
And that's the flip side of the coin. What's up, Chad? What's going on, brother?
Not much. Just got done with some intense 8th grade girls volleyball action. So
Nice.
with Dave's son.
Yeah. Not on the team. Long story.
All right.
Dave's son was there spectating without Dave.
Yeah.
He only made it
I
for
would
one
hope.
game.
I would hope like you weren't on the court, just spiking the ball and all that. That's my hope. So.
Oh, I'm
No,
not
I was
surprised.
holding Will up, and Will was,
There you
Will
go.
was getting
There
some
you go.
shots.
Yeah, I'm not surprised he only made it one game.
I mean, he was a trooper. He made it till the end of the first game. So go Will.
So we'll get you out of here on this one. I personally think Oklahoma is pretty damn good. I think this game will tell me, are they like Big 12? Not that it will tell me, but like it's. I don't know how much you take from Arkansas State and Tulsa.
They made Butch Jones cry. Butch Jones cried.
You made former Bearcat coach Butch Jones cry. What the hell, Colin?
It was bad too. I actually was. I saw that and I was like, I saw totally justified. Yeah, like totally justified, man.
Like they're the third worst team in FBS in Sagarin, and there are probably 30 to 40 FCS teams ranked ahead of them. That's how bad they are.
Yeah, it's just
but like how are you guys viewing this? Because like I don't think UC's like great or anything, but I do feel like there's some spots where they could cause issues, and if Oklahoma were to come in and say win by 3 touchdowns, are you guys like, man, we might actually be, pretty damn good? That's
Yeah, we're trying to do like a staff roundtable later this week on 2 things we each learned, quote unquote, about Oklahoma the non-con, because that's like one of the biggest discussion points around OU right now, right? Like, what the hell is there actually to know about this team because of what's taken place? I mean, not only did you beat the crap out of one of the worst teams in the FBS in Arkansas State, but Tulsa had to start the game with their 3rd string quarterback, and you basically had a home field crowd.
Oh, I saw flipping through like the other day. It was on. I'm like, was this game at Oklahoma? I mean, we know that Tulsa has no crowd to begin with from playing them, but like it was literally just an entire stadium of red.
It's like saying Oklahoma wanted to smoke.
It was hilarious because like during the broadcast they were trying to help Tulsa and being like, it's the smallest student body in all the FBS or something like that, and I was like, I don't think it matters, guys. Like, I appreciate the effort, but I don't know. They were probably getting fleeced out of tickets by OU fans anyways. So
I would have sold if I'm a Tulsa fan, I'm selling my tickets to Oklahoma fan. Are you kidding?
Oh, dude, and that's my thing. It's like, well, okay, if it would have been a bigger student body, that's just more money going into those kids' pockets. So I don't know. I think for me, like exactly what I mentioned, I learned a lot about this team when they faced SMU. And I do think that there are things you can take away from those other games. Like the wide receiver depth being a little bit more verified because those guys are actually getting games under their belt. Like that's big. But yeah, I still think this is somewhat of an unknown. And the bottom line here too is like they started 3-0 last year, and what happened next? So I do think that this is a better team, but in general, there's still a lot that has to be identified. And I think that's why they would tell you this is arguably their first real test as they get into Big 12 play.
We also could not forget that Dylan Gabriel has some bad juju with Nippert Stadium.
Did anyone ask him about his return to Nippert Stadium?
But he was 0-2 against Tulsa all time as well, and we saw how that one
went. That is true. That is true. Yeah. And Sauce Gardner is not playing corner for UC anymore.
I think he's very pleased with that one.
Most are.
But yeah, and that's the other part of that too is you mentioned the learning stuff too real quick. Like there are also injuries that have made this a little bit of an unknown commodity of the team as well, which now we're going to really find out if that depth is legit when they play Cincinnati on the road.
Chad, you got anything? I mean, we've been going strong for about 30 minutes here, so.
I didn't catch a lot of what you guys talked about, so I don't really want to repeat anything, but What could we expect from the Oklahoma contingent making the trip to Cincinnati? You think it's going to be pretty large, or?
I think that there are a lot of Oklahoma fans gearing up for this game. I mean, I asked David to help me out with the Behind Enemy Lines piece for Sooners Illustrated, and I had to ask him, like, all right, give me some places to hit. Like, where should Oklahoma fans go? Because I had questions in my VIP thread today. You know where I should park in Cincinnati? I'm like, I don't know.
Good luck.
How the hell do I know? But,
I actually mentioned that in the article about parking. I mean, as I'm sure your fans know, it's an urban campus, so parking is not something that is plentiful for road fan bases.
You didn't get credentialed parking?
No. He's talking about their fans.
Oh, all right.
For fans.
All right.
But the good news
is
if they like beer, this is definitely the city to come to.
I would tell you through sources that Oklahoma fans like beer. That's a definite thing.
And they can, at the game, they can buy Cincy Light and help pay our players. So it kind of works out twofold there. They can have some nice cold beers and put some NIL money into Bearcats' pockets.
Well, there we go. So OU is going to get y'all an NIL deal done for helping out with 2 4-star defensive end commitments.
That's right.
Oklahoma fans are going to do their part and buy the Cincinnati beer and help Cincinnati go on to a bright future in the Big 12.
That's right. You guys go to the SEC, do your thing, just buy, a couple beers for us and help us out.
And then in turn, I'll just like randomly barge into one of y'all's podcasts and some 4-star defensive lineman is going to commit to Oklahoma again.
Yeah.
It's perfect. It's a balance.
Perfect.
Every time. I would tell the Oklahoma fans, and this probably Dave didn't mention this, but if you fly into CBG, it's actually in Kentucky, and there is a place close by called La Torta Loca, right, kind of close to the airport, that has sandwiches, tortas that are like it looks like a football. Like, they are massive, and they are delicious.
I can get with that. I think I speak for a lot of Oklahoma people. I think they'll get with that. But
when are you coming in?
I won't be there. I do all our recruiting stuff as well. So I'm going to be in Houston this weekend, but we'll have 3 guys there, James, Josh, and Tom. So make sure y'all grab them and say what's up. I told them to look for you guys. So
well, I have a
tailgate. On the field.
I have a tailgate, so send them my information. And if they get there early and just want to come get some food that's probably way better than whatever they're going to get in the media area, and
eat at Dave's tailgate.
They can come up to
tip number 1.
They can come up. I'll tell them how to get to our tailgate.
It's funny enough. I felt bad because Tom and James are both new to the Oklahoma beat, and it was their first road game on the OU beat at Tulsa, and it was basically a home game, just with less fans. So I was like, hopefully our guys will show them a good time out there at Cincinnati, because this is actually a road game. So
but yeah, I'll message you my number, and you can give it to them. Tell them, text me, Saturday morning or whatever, and I'll tell them where we're at.
Just be careful. They will be offered Jello shots at Dave's tailgate. At 9:30 in the morning.
If the corporate mustaches are listening, I do not condone such activity. And I have no idea what the phrase Jello shots even is. So
yeah. For some reason, the Simone family has a deep, long-standing affinity for Jello shots.
I mean,
it's a wild deal.
Corporate speak aside, who doesn't?
Exactly.
I don't know. We'll see. That's their business. I'll be in Houston. Again, I will not be associated with any activity. So
I refrain, but I've seen my employees. I've turned my back to have plausible deniability multiple times.
Well, look, man, it's about creating a fun work environment, right?
It's in the contract I have with Chad. I go to the game as a fan. I'm not
I drink water.
A big J journalist. So I tailgate, I sit in stands, and I have fun.
We actually do an over-under at the end of this show on how many drinks Dave will have by the end of the game.
That's the next show I'm gonna hop on because I'm gonna have to take a stab at that one for some cash.
That's a weekly segment that we do on this show during the season for home games. How many drinks plus Jello shots will Dave consume by the end of the game?
Well, the good news there
It's a big
too is
number.
I'll have reconnaissance on site to help me project exactly what
yeah.
my bet needs to be.
Yeah, tell them to text me and then come up, get some. I'm assuming because it's a noon game, we might be doing like a breakfast tailgate. So tell them come up, get some food, and hang out for a little bit before they go in and do their work. But yeah, they're more than welcome to stop by.
Yeah, fellas, I appreciate y'all. Again, I was really excited to hop back on.
Tell everybody real quick where I know you guys have been pumping out a ton of content for all the games, but this game in particular for UC fans. So tell everybody where they can find you guys.
Yeah, SoonersIllustrated.com. I'm on Twitter at @CKennedy247. Tom Green is at Thomas_Verde. And then Josh Calloway 2, and James Jackson is at James Jackson 15 or something like that. But yeah, that's our crew. We'll be obviously full force out there. 3 guys in Cincinnati for the game with these guys, and then I'll be covering some recruiting stuff down in the Houston area. So we're looking forward to it, man. We're pumped about this matchup, and I'm glad that both teams are doing well, and hopefully it ends up being a banger of a game, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Appreciate you, brother.
All right, fellas. Y'all need anything, give me a shout.
Thank you, Colin.
All right. There you go. Colin Kennedy from Sooner Illustrated. It's the second time we've had him on, and he's outstanding. What a great guest.
I mean, it's great because I don't have to sit here and do a ton of research on a team. I can just have him tell it.
Yeah. Did you do the ad reads? Where are we at on that?
I didn't. I did the best I could. I don't have the ad read to read in front of me, so.
Okay.
But that was the Big 12 opponent preview brought to you by Team Ticker.
Okay. If the people do not know what Team Ticker is, I'm going to tell them in just a second. It's a one-of-a-kind sports design for Bearcat fans. It's a high-tech retro display that provides daily updates of the latest news, stats, schedules, betting odds, and much more. No subscription required. Actually, no betting odds. That's not in there anymore. Apparently, the NCAA did not love that. It's a local company started by 2 UC alumni. It's easy to hang with the provided hanging kit. At game time, it plays the fight song. It actually it kind of scared the crap out of me, Dave. It played a fight song Sunday at 1:00 for the Bengals.
Oh, like the Cincinnati, the Bengals fight song?
Yeah, just like a little snippet of it. But I was here working on the bites because we didn't get done until very late Saturday night. So and then the thing started. I was like, is that thing haunted? What happened? But there you go. Aaron had the Bearcat. There's the sea paw. $25 off your purchase. Started Saturday. TeamTicker.com. And again, if you know any Michigan State or Penn State fans, they are both live now with their own designs on Team Ticker as well. Great gifts. Awesome birthday gift for dad, father, son, whatever. So there you go.
I did say 25% off, and Aaron
$25 off.
Aaron thankfully caught that very quickly and corrected me.
Good. Also, that is your first timestamp brought to you by Turtles Brew. 0 sugar, 0 carbs, gluten-free, bourbon-infused sweet tea, flavors, cherry lime, raspberry peach, orange vanilla. There's 50 locations in Greater Cincinnati. Visit turtlesbrew.com for information and location. A portion of proceeds go to Save the Sea Turtles. They are in Toledo and expanding now in Central Ohio. If you would like to jump on the advertising train here at Bearcat Journal, we don't have any openings on this show. My goodness. Just we got 5 ad reads every time we do something. But on the BBP, there's a little bit of openings. We've got George in the Jungle. We've got the breakfast or the brunch, the Bearcat brunch that's got some secondary openings. So if you are interested in jumping in and being a sponsor, The people that have been with us have stayed with us for a long time for a reason. This is a loyal fan base. And if you support us, they support you. So just hit me up in the DMs, either on Bearcat Journal or on Twix. That's what I'm calling it now, Dave. Twix.
You're calling it what? I'm sorry?
Twix.
Why?
Twitter and X combined.
Oh, okay.
I'm calling it Twix.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm
making up my own thing.
Just gonna always call it Twitter.
Yeah, I probably will always call it Twitter too, but ironically, when I don't call it Twitter, I'm going to call it Twix.
Perfect.
Because that when you combine TWI and X, you get Twix. And I like Twix; they're delicious. So if they want to sponsor us, feel free.
Okay, yeah.
I'm
sure they're listening. Mars or Hershey or whoever owns
yeah,
them.
yeah.
Give us a call.
Yeah, my DMs are open. Do we need to talk about
No,
last week?
I have no interest, and we know what happened. Like,
right. You guys talked about it extensively on Sunday. We talked about it on Monday. I don't really have a whole lot else left to say. Like,
it's a terrible loss. They should never have lost. It's inexcusable. I think there were some things that were better than maybe we realized at first glance. But if you score 2 touchdowns and 8 red zone trips, what the hell do you think is going to happen? That's
inexcusable.
That's really all the first is to say about it.
It's all the angry words. Inexcusable. It's
I'm embarrassed.
Yeah, embarrassed.
That's always my favorite. Like, I'm not embarrassed. I didn't have anything to do with the game.
Right. I just talk about it.
But no,
somebody asked me how my weekend was. I was like, it could have been better, but
yeah, I mean, my family went 0-5 in football games, so like, yeah, it could have been better. Michigan State, Tennessee, UC, the Bengals, and the Lions, like, could have been better. But guess what? Oh well. But no, I don't have anything else to say about it. Do you?
Not really. Not really.
No, I think it's time to turn the page, move on. First Big 12 game. Very, 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 what I think is a very, very good opponent. I think UC's going to have their work cut out for them, and we'll see how it goes.
Do you think by this, like, I know we kind of think like the 11 a.m. thing, it's going to be 11 a.m. for Oklahoma in this game, but they do this so much that's not like,
it's not a big deal.
This isn't foreign to them.
Their fan base basically, like, when it came out that it was 11, if you read like the Twitter mentions, it was a ton of Oklahoma people being like, oh look, another 11 o'clock game. Like,
right, that's
you're you in Texas were the premier team. If you wanted to be on big noon kickoff, it was at 11 o'clock. Like, if Fox was showing so like, no, I don't think that matters at all.
Yeah, I think it's something that like is easy for a Cincinnati fan to look at and say, like, oh, it's going to be early for them, but like they do this all the time.
Yeah,
like it's ingrained in the culture of playing.
And it's also 1 hour. We're not talking about like Oregon going to play Florida. Like, it's 1 hour. You start your day at 6:30 instead of 7:30 or something like that. Like, it's not a big deal. So no,
GMAC, I'm not getting into all that about Satterfield. I'm tired. It's worn me out. Kevin Frank says, I'm expecting a different D from Cincinnati from last week. Back to the in-your-face pressure. Gabriel's over 80% and under pressure. Do those two sentences make a lot of sense to you, Kevin?
I don't know.
Will be some interesting things to follow as the game progresses. I agree. I'm just as an observationalist reading this message. If he's over 80% when under pressure, that might not be the play.
That to me is the story of this game. I think, like Colin was talking about SMU and them playing cloud coverage and cover 3, and to me, that's just like prolonging the inevitable. That's death by 1,000 cuts. They weren't going to win the game, so they just made it look closer than it was by doing that.
I think it was 14-11 in the middle of the third quarter.
Yeah, but they still, they never
But
led.
look, we saw strange things happen. Like,
Right, but my point is that playbook in our defense?
I don't know.
Like, you can say, well, we should do this, and if I'm a coach, I'm going to go, yeah, we don't, though, because we're not good at it. Like,
Do you think they sent the house at Miami?
no. It wasn't. I mean, I don't want to get into that game anymore, but, like, that was part of
We're comparing.
Right.
The
That
question
was
takes us there.
part of the confusion to me, whatever you want to call it. Like, offensive and defensive game plan against Pitt versus Miami, it didn't look anything like I thought it was going to look.
Is it smart to send the house at Dylan Gabriel over and over again?
Well, I mean, not if you're gonna play all man, but like they didn't send the house at Blake Gabbert or Brent Gabbert, whatever the hell his name is, and then couldn't get to him with 3 or 4 man pressures, and then got beat because of it. So like, if you can't don't play in your face bump and run man coverage if you're not gonna make the quarterback throw the ball earlier than he wants to.
Yeah.
That's the part I didn't understand. Like, if you only want to rush 4 and play zone behind it, I'm cool with that. Like SMU apparently did. Like, yeah, you go score, great. It's going to take you 12 plays and 6 minutes because you're going to have to pick up 3 first downs, and the longest play we're going to give you is 14 yards. And if that's the way it goes, that's the way it goes. Like, I just didn't get what we did last week. We played our typical back end defense without really, what I saw at least, without really, 6-man, 5, 6, 7-man pressures. And that scares me against Oklahoma because they will run quick game. They will run jet sweep pop pass. They will run slants. So
and if you leave the middle like this, where
right.
all your D line is up here and all your DBs and coverage are back here, they will do this all day for 15, for 17, for 20, for 25.
Yeah, so it kind of gets into the idea of like, okay, we're going to pressure, but then if you're not getting there, dudes are going to be open. I mean, we can talk about this is the best defense UC's played, or OU's played. It's also absolutely the best offense we've played. So if you think
the best defense.
Yeah, if you think we've had trouble covering Miami and Pitt's receivers, what the hell do you think is going to happen Saturday?
Right. Yeah.
Like, unfortunately, I hope I'm as wrong about this game as I was again about the Miami game. I see 2 outcomes. Bearcats lose by a medium amount or Bearcats lose by a shit ton. Because I just don't know how we slow that offense down because our offense is not built to go touchdown for touchdown with somebody.
So I know you don't want to talk about the Miami game, but I'm going to use that in relation to the Oklahoma game.
Sure, I just meant like we don't need to relitigate that.
Let me make my point. Here's the other thing that would drastically concern me in predicting a Cincinnati victory. Do you have faith that if Cincinnati plays bend but don't break, they cannot break in the red zone against Oklahoma?
Enough time, right? Enough times.
I don't feel great about Oklahoma getting to the red zone 8 times and only scoring twice because, even if you go back to that, if you go back to the 2019 game against UCF with Dylan Gabriel quarterback, what happened.
Yeah, they bogged. I mean, Jeffries had an interception in the red zone. They had problems in the red zone for sure.
They settled for field goals. They went for it. It was almost like a very similar thing to what happened against Miami.
Yeah.
When I look at this defense, I do not have yet, and maybe it'll get there, but I do not have yet the confidence that they're going to bend but not break.
Yeah,
I have confidence they can do the bend part where they keep things in front of them. They slow the game down. They make Oklahoma take 8, 9 plays to get to the red zone. But are you confident, and then that's rhetorical, are you confident that when they get there, Cincinnati is going to be able to make interceptions, to cause a timely fumble, to get a stop on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 from the 5, to reset downs and give them 4 more plays. Like, that's the stuff that right now, like, we don't know.
Yeah.
I don't feel like in 2019 and then even more, obviously, in 2021, I just let teams get to the red zone. They're not fucking scoring.
Right.
Like it doesn't matter how many yards they put up.
I mean, Tulsa couldn't score in 8 plays from the 2-yard line.
Right. Like, so, like, when I look at this, my fear is this is a defense that can do the bend part. Can they do the not break part? I don't feel great about that yet. Now, maybe they do that against Oklahoma, and Oklahoma gets 5, 6, 7 red zone trips and only gets 1 or 2 touchdowns. And then we'll have a different conversation on Monday. But today, I look at that and go, I don't know. I don't have a ton of confidence in it.
Yeah, I mean, my game plan for a UC win is just be uber effective running the ball, hit some big plays, which they have the capability to do in the pass game. And Collins mentioned that, their secondary is weak / injury, has some injuries. And then defensively, you have to force some turnovers. You can't just get stops in this game. Like, you can't just force 3 and outs, or you can't just give up a couple first downs and get a stop. Like, they need to flip field. They need to cause a fumble, interception, run something back. Like, that's how they win, in my opinion. Like, you have another game from Emory where he's a real running threat and hits on some of the balls that maybe he missed against Miami. You get whatever running back play, gets the majority of the carries, has a game similar to Kiner at Pitt or Monty last week. So, but to me, it kind of just comes down to, like, I think the defense is good, but this is not 2021
right
UC defense as of now. And are we really in a game where the other team is going to want to push the tempo and we're going to want to slow it down? So, like, how does that back and forth play work? Are we going to hold them to under 35 points? And if they do, or if they don't, like, I just don't know how we score 35 without some of the stuff that I just mentioned, like being boosted by the defense making some big plays.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I just have a hard time finding, like, if there was a matchups article that did, like, this versus this for, wide receivers versus DBs on both sides, like O-line, D-line on both sides. Like, I have a hard time finding anywhere that Cincinnati has a significant advantage. Like, there's maybe the D-line versus Oklahoma's O-line. There's a slight advantage, but Oklahoma's given up, 1 sack all year?
I did not look that up, but, like, Chad, like,
I believe I've heard 1 sack.
We had a significant advantage against Miami's offensive line, and I don't really think the D-line did anything in that game.
And there was 2 sacks. There was, 5 tackles for loss?
5 or 6 TFLs, but that might not all be attributed to the D-line.
Right, but generally, like, if your linebackers are getting tackles for loss, your D-line is occupying guys and getting them free. Yeah. Like, it's an indication.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, I would have expected them to dominate Miami's offensive line.
They dominated Pitt's offensive line. Like, there were guys running free against Pitt's offensive line all day. I did not have anywhere in my mind that Miami's O-line was gonna, like, basically stonewall UC.
Yeah,
that was like, you could have like bet me $100 at bad odds that UC's D-line was going to be neutralized. I would have lost almost as much as I lost betting on the game.
All the monies.
All of the monies. Yeah, 1 sack in 3 games. So this talk that Oklahoma's line is, suspect, They will have 1 sack in 3 games, and
It's
you're a
relative.
team.
It's relative.
You're a team that relies on sacks to fuel your defense and to help protect a secondary that's,
Yeah, like that's my biggest concern is that if Sammy doesn't play, our secondary depth will be incredibly tested. Like,
I had someone bring up to me something I didn't remember, Dave. Do you remember the Fenway Bowl? I try not to. That's why I don't remember this.
I remember it happened.
Do you remember Sammy Anderson in the Fenway Bowl?
I don't remember any particular person in the Fenway Bowl.
He took a nap in the Fenway Bowl. And then the next time he was on the field was Eastern Kentucky. And what happened?
Yeah.
He took another nap. And as they, that's not great.
Right.
When you have a guy that has played in his past 2 games, he's taken 2 naps. They are going to be ultra conservative.
Yeah, you don't need a Tua Tagovailoa situation on your hands.
Right. So he is going to be handled very much with kid gloves. I think Justin Harris has done a decent job. We have talked about that. I do not think he has been as bad as some people think, but he has been on the wrong end of.
No, I agree, but
of more than a few like
this
issues.
This week in particular, decent job ain't going to cut it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a matter of like who's next and who's now. Like everybody has to step up a spot with Sammy out, and we already had questions about the secondary as a whole, just from a inexperienced /
I think it's safety. They've been okay.
I agree.
I think Threats has been good. I think Taj Ward has had a couple bad plays, but he's had far more good plays than bad.
Right. So, I mean, if you feel pretty good about Jordan Young, Justin, we know what Justin is. He's a grabby DB. Like, are they going to call it or not? But this is a different type of wide receiver than they faced so far this year. And with a guy like Drake Stoops in the slot, I'm going to be very interested to see how that matchup goes. And they just have more you're talking about whether they're new or inexperienced or whatever. Like everybody running routes for OU is a 4-star or 5-star.
Yeah.
Like we didn't play any of those guys last year. We haven't played any of those guys this year. It's just different.
And I think this needs to be talked about. Cincinnati does not do what almost every team in the country does right now. Let's put 5 DBs on the field. I love Deshaun Pace. We're going to find out Deshaun Pace in that nickel role. Can he truly guard like a high-end slot receiver? I have concerns there. Not that I think Deshaun is not good. Like he's one of the best players on this Cincinnati defense. But you have moved him from linebacker essentially to nickel. Deshaun. Okay, whatever. Deshaun Pace. You have moved him from linebacker essentially to nickel corner, right?
Yeah.
That's what the star position is in this defense. The 3 quote-unquote linebackers, and really it's a 3-2, like a 4-2-5.
Mm-hmm.
Because Greshik's a pass rusher.
Right.
It's a 3-4. Like that's why I've always called this a 3-4. Because I think there are 4 linemen, including Greshik. There are 3 linebackers, including Pace, and there's only 4 defensive backs. That is a choice. Does that choice pay off with the first real test of getting Deshaun Pace covering a slot receiver all game?
Yeah.
That concerns me, Dave.
Yeah, I mean,
because we haven't seen it.
Like if they're going to put Jaleel Farouk, Andrell Anthony, Drake Stoops out there, and then I don't know what they're based, or if they really use tight ends or if they go 4 wide. Like I just don't love our matchups there. Like we're not there yet. Like I'm not like I think there's a line like criticizing versus being critical. Like, I try to be critical of what I see, but not criticize individuals. But like, yeah, Taj is not a 4-3, low 4-4 guy. Like, Justin is not that type of guy. Like, can these guys just straight up run with these dudes? Or are we going to get in a situation where it's bombs over Baghdad, outcasts, and they're just chucking it deep every other play and either completing it or getting another PI call?
They are going to go over the top.
I mean, if you watched UC play the last 2 weeks,
Right.
why would you not?
Like, here's the thing that's wild to me.
Is there a zone defense in what Brian Brown does?
Right. Here's what's wild to me. Two things. One, if you look, like, they only allowed 22 completions over the last 2 games. And we are still talking about the secondary.
Right.
Like, we should be, if you go through a game in college football in 2023 and you allow 11 completions a game, we should be talking about maybe the best secondary in the country. But rightfully so, we have concerns because of what has happened on some of those completions and the pass interferences that have also stacked up. I mean, there were 3 in the Pitt game, 3 in the Miami game on just straight routes down the sideline.
Something like that, at least. Yeah.
I think like at minimum 6 or 7 pass interferences straight down the field. Like, so that's 7 splash plays you've allowed, close to, like, it depends on my definition and Aaron's definition on what's a splash play.
I call it 15-yard pass interference penalty a splash play because not only is it 15 yards, but several of them have happened on 3rd down. So you're giving them a free set of downs.
Right. Well, yeah, Paul, because they're not allowing many completions. Like, this is a product of what we just talked about. They have not allowed many completions. The completions they have allowed have been loud, right? Like, we are not seeing teams have looked at this defense and said, we're not doing a lot of the silly swings, not silly, but like swings and bubble screens. And
there hasn't been very much horizontal stuff. It's been drop back and chuck it.
Right. So, yeah, that's what's going to happen when, and especially if you allow 22 completions in 2 games and one of them is a 80-yard touchdown or 79-yard touchdown, then your numbers are going to be awful. And because there were only 22 completions and one of them was a bomb. There was another, 30-yard, the really difficult catch on the sideline against Miami was 30-plus yards. And then Pitt had a couple. So, yeah, like, you're not allowing them to catch the ball. You're not allowing what is so common in today's football. 3, 4, 5 yards in the air and then trying to let a guy, make. And
now you're playing a quarterback who's roughly 85% passing and leads the Big 12 in completion percentage on 20-plus air yard throws. Right. So, like, you think they're just going to start throwing 5-yard speed outs?
Right. They've allowed 10 pass plays of 20 yards or more through 3 games. Like, that's 3 chunk plays a game. It's not terrible in 2023 college football.
No, but when you juxtapose it against the number of completions, then it's a third of your completions that you're allowing are going for over 20 yards.
Right. Then it's a problem. So that's what I'm getting at. I'm not saying it's not a problem. I'm saying it's a problem. It's absolutely a problem. It's just a weird problem because we have not seen anybody like really move the ball down the field via pass.
It's the lowest percentage play on offense.
Right. And they're getting beat by the lowest percentage play.
And it's been the most successful.
Right. So, like, I'm not defending it. I'm just putting it in context. Trying to put it in context.
And that's why in this matchup with the way their offense is playing right now, I just find it hard to believe that if we play the same defense that we've been playing through 3 games, that those things are going to change against a better opponent and that we're going to slow them down enough to get the win. So like
Right.
it's a hard, thing for me to kind of try to decipher.
And Paul with another good point, but here this is another thing that's been an anomaly to me. 92 in yards allowed per pass attempt.
But
They're
that's because the completions are going for a ton of yards.
Well, also they're not allowing a lot of plays, which is going to be drastically different against Oklahoma, which is why I'm afraid this is going to be the worst of your two scenarios. I don't remember how many plays Pitt ran, but Miami only ran like 50 plays.
I know how many plays Pitt ran because general idea. Because Dracovic was 10 of 32, and they gave the ball to running backs 18 times. So I don't know how many times he counted as a run play, but that's 50 plays right there. And so if he ran the ball 10 times, which I don't even know if he ran the ball 10 times, that's 60 plays. Miami only didn't even run 50 plays.
Right. There's like 48 plays or whatever. So
or 54 plays and we ran like nine.
And it's Eastern Kentucky did not run a lot of plays.
61 for Pittsburgh.
Pitt ran 61.
Yeah.
So 110 plays, 55 plays a game. So yeah, like Paul, this all lines up with what we're expressing in the concern that Oklahoma wants. If Oklahoma runs 80 plays, they're probably going to be pissed that that's not enough, right? Unless they just, these numbers hold up.
If Oklahoma runs 80 plays and our pass defense numbers hold up, that means they're going to complete like 10 passes of like 40 yards.
Right.
And that is in lies my issue with this game.
Right. Yeah. So like, I'm just trying to look like because we're still in the small sample size like realm in terms of like
for sure
where teams rank nationally. Like there are at 3 games, there are reasons why you're ranked where you're at. At 7 or 8 games, like you are who you are.
Like they've played 2 absolutely terrible teams. Like
Oklahoma, yes.
But they've been insanely efficient and good in both of those games.
Right.
So like, they were bad, but guess what? We did exactly what we were supposed to do to them from the minute we started. There was no playing with our food. There was no fluky touchdowns and like we beat that ass from Jump Street. So it doesn't really matter how bad they were because Oklahoma did exactly what we would think we would do in 2021. Like we did exactly what we thought we would do.
Right. Paul, I don't give a shit about the numbers anymore. Like we've gone through this for 10 minutes now. I know. Like we've talked about it for 10 minutes. I don't need any more numbers. Like we've already talked about why they look like how they look like. But now juxtaposing those positions against Oklahoma, oh boy.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's gonna have to be a lot different than what the Bearcats have shown so far if they're going to hold up against Oklahoma. And that's why I said at the beginning of this segment, maybe they can bend. I'm just worried about
the only way they can
to not break.
In my opinion, the only way they can bend is if they can mix zone and man. There's no bending in man against Oklahoma's offense.
It's fair.
Like
there's probably just going to be guys.
Well, at some
shaking a tackle and running to the end zone.
At some point, right? Like you might get them on a series or 2, but like if you just line up man on man and just play your 4 DBs against their 4 pass catchers, like how many times out of 10 do you think we're going to stop them?
And Dylan Gabriel, say what you will about him. I'm not a big Dylan Gabriel guy.
He's fucking playing awesome right now.
He is. Like, can I finish my thing?
Yes, you sure can.
He is extremely accurate. Like that is the one thing. He's not a runner. He's not a guy that's going to like do a lot of like get out in space and beat you in space, but he is extremely accurate. And if you're gonna put his receivers in man-to-man coverage, guess what, Dave? That dude's going to complete a lot of passes. He's going to complete a lot of passes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I just, I totally agree. Like, I love the aggressiveness of the offense and the defense. Live and die by it. But like, you gotta have.
There are matchups.
You have to have a secondary pitch. I'm not saying you got to use it 50% of the time, but like, I mean,
what's my favorite Mick Cronin quote? You got to dance all the dances. You got to be able to dance all the dances. You can't say, "This is what we do,"
and we're
not doing anything else. You can't, because
not against the highest levels of the sport.
They are, I believe, the most efficient team in the country.
Yeah. I mean, if the quarterback's complete 85% of his passes, and you scored what, 73? They only scored 28 against SMU, and then I think in the fifth, 66 last week. So they've scored like basically 150 points in 3 games. So, yeah, they got it going right now on offense. And that's why, like, we haven't really talked about our offense versus their defense because I'm not sure it matters.
Right.
Because, like, I think our offense can do some things against their defense, like running the ball with the receivers against their DBs. But, like, are we gonna, if they score 38, are we scoring 42?
Right.
And I think
holding pretty successful against
38.
Gabriel.
Hold him to 38 would be like damn good.
Successful against Gabriel, dropping 8 in coverage. He still threw for 300 yards in that game. Now, they had the interception in the red zone, right at the end zone. And then they had the Sauce interception. I don't remember the third one in that game. Was it a linebacker?
It was.
I remember a line.
It was Jarrell. They were about to score again.
Jarrell?
The ball got tipped up and he grabbed it. So they threw 2 red zone interceptions.
Yeah. So, miss me with the whole they did such a great job. Yeah, Jarrell, Sauce, and Cam Jeffries. Dropping 8, they did what Miami did. So they let you get inside the 15. All 3
interceptions, 2, they probably would have at least kicked field goals on, and the other one we returned for a touchdown.
So that was also they had their backs against the wall in that one.
Yeah, I mean
that was only like a 20-yard.
Yeah, they were. They took it. They snapped it from I think inside their own 10.
Yeah, he just.
That's what I'm saying. It was our 2 interceptions were inside our own red zone, which more than likely they're getting at least 3.
Right.
And then our intercept, the other one resulted in points for us.
Right. So
but,
I don't feel great, Dave.
No, I don't either.
I don't feel great. If I felt a little bit better that this defense would bow their back inside the 20 and have the answers to really confuse Gabriel again, I would feel a little better. One, I think they're going to probably hit a touchdown or 2 over the top.
If you text me and told me that Brian Brown told you at practice the other day that they were going to run zone 30% of the time, I'd feel a lot better about this game.
What if I told you they're in zone 30% of the time and they were bad at it?
I'd still feel better about being in man 100% of the time.
All right, score prediction.
41-21 OU.
Yeah, I think I'm probably in the same vicinity. The thing I think that could maybe keep it close is if Cincinnati does maybe manage to control tempo early, and then you at least get Oklahoma out of their rhythm, because we've seen 2 games where just from the absolute fucking kickoff, it was an avalanche. They did that to Arkansas State, they did that to Tulsa, where it was 28-0 before people were done. And
to UC's credit, they have played very good first quarters. I mean,
early, yeah.
they should have been up 14-7 right away, even with that touch to Larvide. And like, we went right down the field and scored, picked them off, ran it back to the 8. You score there, you get 14-7. Like,
you get one more stop and a touchdown, it's over.
Right. So, like, not going to discredit that at all, but the importance of doing that again is heightened even more when you're going up against an offense that can score in 3 plays.
Yeah.
And especially when your way to victory is run the ball, run the quarterback, control the clock, control tempo, keep their offense off the field. You give up a couple of those plays. I mean, that game plan's out the window. You're chucking it with them, and we're not chucking it with them. Like, we're just not.
Unless we find out that maybe just running Xavier Henderson and Braden Smith deep might be just the best. Like, that might be the thing this offense needs.
Yeah, I mean,
but can you keep Emory Jones upright long enough?
Emory missed a deep shot to D. Wiggins in that game last week too. That would have made a huge difference. When
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about my thoughts on that again. I've covered it a bunch of times.
That play specifically.
Yes.
Oh, that's fine.
If you didn't hear it, I'll go quickly.
No, you don't even need to, because I'm sure most everybody else has. So,
well, if not, maybe I think Emory threw the straight fly route, and at the end of D. Wiggins' route, he started drifting a little to the middle to give, because he beat the guy like a drum.
Yeah.
So I think he had taken a couple steps toward the middle on his route to give him a bigger throw radius, and Emory had already thrown it when he did that. Because I was standing right there on the sideline. Yeah. If he continues straight down the sideline, that ball is right in his breadbasket. But he didn't run it. He didn't cut it to the post, but he just kind of gave him a little bit of a wider, like catch radius. And Emory had already let go of the ball by the time Wiggins had kind of.
I think they definitely, like, OU is not a pass rush team. Like, I'm not super concerned about that.
I still am.
You just got in this game, especially, like, you got to take some shots.
Yeah.
You get to the four. I don't know what they call every yard marker now is like called something, but like once you get to your own 40, like you got to put one out there.
Yeah.
Like you got to take some shots and see what they have back there. Because, I mean, according to Colin, it's suspect.
Right.
Whether it's just the play in general or some guys are banged up, like, we've got the dudes. Like, take some shots.
Interesting question from Craig. Win the coin toss, take the ball?
100%. I mean, I would do it every game anyway, but yes, absolutely.
So what have we seen in 3 games, Dave? Straight
Colin
down the field on the first drive, right?
Yeah.
Colin mentioned the same thing. I don't know if you were here for that or not, Chad, but Colin mentioned the same thing. He said if you're Cincinnati, you do that.
He mentioned it for different reasons. Like he mentioned it in terms of like Cincinnati running the ball and trying to control the clock.
Right.
That's not what they've done in the first 3 games. They have gone to the air, ping, ping, ping.
Whether it's 10 plays, 15 plays, whatever, their beginning game script has been very good. So why take the chance that you're down 7-0?
Paul, I was 2 yards from the play. I was standing on the sidelines 2 yards from the play. The ball landed. If you would have continued to run the fly route, it landed right there. I was 2 yards from it. You're arguing with me to argue tonight, Paul. Jesus Christ. Need to feed Henderson again. That's going to come down to Miami created that. Miami was not going to let Xavier Henderson get over the top. They were playing 7 yards off of them, and him and Emory Jones just decided, all right, then we're gonna 8-yard them to death, and I'm gonna try to make a catch and then make a cut and get upfield. But do you really think Oklahoma's just gonna get? I mean, maybe they do. Maybe they have the same game plan that we're not gonna let him take the top off, and we'll give him 140 yards receiving and no touchdowns. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I would test their, Con talked about the ends. I would test their ends with, movement and motion. You have a young or inexperienced secondary. I'd be motion, orbit motion, bring that option shit back with Aaron Turner. Like, just get them.
I don't love against a team with speed. I don't love the.
Yeah, but to me, it's more about discipline than speed. Like,
but they can blow your shit up before you can have
discipline. But they're hesitant because they've never seen it live.
I don't.
No, I'm trying to move people around, make them like you just give them stagnant looks. It's much easier to play defense. Like,
yeah, but if you give a linebacker the chance to run the alley and blow up the option, like that's on your tape already.
That's your quarterback and everything making like.
They almost had a blow up against them in the Miami game.
Yeah.
And luckily, Ryan Montgomery picked it up and gained 6 yards.
Run it. Got to run it better.
Have I seen any practices with Xavier Henderson jump on the red zone? Yeah. I think it's really hard to do from 2 yards out. Like, that's what I talked about. I said that to Tony. We were in the end zone, like, watching towards the end of the game, and he's like, why not jump ball? And I'm like, well, a jump ball with 12 yards of space, like, the chance you lose the DB there is very low, right? Like, maybe more of a back shoulder where they think it's going to be a jump ball or like something, but I don't love the fade from the 2. Do you?
I don't like the fade, period.
Ever, right.
Like, run a speed
don't
out.
Mind
like,
it if you're at like the 8, the 9, where you give him a little bit of a chance to like big boy, like to really get one-on-one.
Yeah, there's not enough space. There's not enough space to set it up. From the 2, as the DB, I don't have to worry about getting beat deep. So I am right in your shit. And as soon as the snap goes, I'm running you out of bounds.
Right.
And if you're already doing a fade and you're heading that way, it's very easy for me to just body you and let you go out of bounds.
Right. I don't love it from there. Like, if you're at the 8, the 9, the 11, like, I think it's a better play with a guy like Xavier Henderson. That's
from that part, I'm spreading you out and I'm running a slant and throwing it up high and using your size that way.
Right.
Because then you're boxing out the DB. He has to come through you to get to the ball. And anybody coming from the other side, if it's high, like, yeah, you might get a rib shot, but like, that's the only place to put it. Because if you put it lower, like, there's more traffic there.
Right. And they did try to run a slant off to D Wiggins, and Miami played it perfectly. The guy came in with his backhand over the top. They tried to run a quick slant from the 2, and the Miami DB played it as well as you could play it. That's what I was screaming for. Like, I love those just quick slants, height, throw, beat the DB, make the catch. And I thought the Miami guy played it great.
Yeah.
They tried to dig. Guy fell. Like,
yeah, it'll be interesting because I think we've seen through 3 weeks. We talked in the offseason about his honesty and transparency. And I think in reviewing the game, Coach Satterfield, was pretty open about it on Tuesday. Like, yeah, I probably could have, called some things a little bit different, whether it was in the red zone or just the overall offensive game plan. So we'll see, like, what that leads this week.
Right. That's how stories are written, Dave, chapter by chapter.
But
we're about to get a very interesting chapter.
Yes, we are.
Does your mood that you maybe are expecting Oklahoma to win this game impact your ability to consume at the Simone family tailgate Saturday morning?
That never has any bearing on it. What will have a bearing on it is
I've heard
my job. I will be.
I thought you were going to talk about your stomach.
Well, no, that'll be gone by then. That was just today, last night and today. My job. I will be up very early tomorrow morning, working downtown for the Wellness Festival all day and who knows how long into the night. And then everything starts for real on Friday, and I'll have another early morning long day. So with a noon kickoff, I'm not sure how much spunk
Are they going to require you to work Saturday morning?
No, it's in my contract. I don't have to work on game days.
Weekends? Oh, on game days?
Well, I should say home game days. We've obviously done the festival for 2 years, and they've had a home game both Saturdays.
Okay.
So I assume if it was a road game, I would be working. I'm not going to be like, yeah, I just can't come in today. I got to sit on my couch and watch this game. I'm not sure that would fly. Although they're very nice and very accommodating to my extracurricular
Demanding
activity.
schedule.
Right. But I'm probably going to be pretty damn tired. So it might be tough to, get things jump started. So I would put the number a little bit lower than usual. And you just typically can't really get going as much as you can for a 3:30 or 7 o'clock game.
Right. It's difficult. It's not easy.
I will do my best, but
I have faith in you.
I will give my all for the Bearcats.
Do you have anything else on Oklahoma?
I don't really have anything else on the Sooners, no. Very excited, though. I mean, big noon kickoff, Fox at noon. Like, it's a very big day.
Yeah, it is. Big day on campus. A lot of excitement.
Sounds like there will be quite a few visitors, whether it's for football or basketball. I'm sure we'll have a more confirmed list probably tomorrow, but no, it should be
tomorrow Friday. I want to the list for football visitors is always difficult on a noon game,
right? How many?
These are kids that are playing Friday night and getting done at 11, 12 o'clock. And then if they're any distance away, that's early.
They tell you they're gonna come, and then they get banged up a little bit in their game, or they're just worn out or something. They're like, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Right. And a lot of times, like if you're from out of state, you better get in the car after the game.
Well, I wonder if St. Joe's Prep doesn't have a game because Samaj and they're all coming. Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
I wonder if they're bringing their West Virginia wide receiver commit with them as well.
I mean, he might not be going anywhere. They beat Pitt.
Pitt might be bad, and that is not as good of a win as we thought it was in a couple weeks.
Yeah, that's they might need to change quarterbacks, Dave.
Oh, that guy's not a playable Power 5 quarterback right now.
Him without Flowers might be real telling.
You think?
Because apparently he could just throw the ball to one guy and get. That might be Baltimore's best offensive player besides Lamar.
Yeah, he's good
already. He's played 2 NFL games. That's a timestamp. More Oklahoma, I guess, is that timestamp. Brought to you by our good friends at Turtles Brews. 0 sugar, 0 carbs, gluten-free, bourbon-infused sweet tea. The flavors are cherry lime, raspberry peach, orange vanilla. There's 50 locations in Greater Cincinnati. If you want to find one close to you, go to turtlesbrew.com. They've got a location tracker and more information. They are in Cincinnati, Toledo, and expanding now in Central Ohio. 6% ABV. I think they would be great if maybe you just, add a little extra bourbon.
A little dabble, do you?
A little sprinkle drip.
I scared her because I was so shocked she jumped up. It's okay, come on. But no, I was going to say, did we ever talk in the roughly decade that we were in the American? Did we ever talk about another American game as much as we've talked about this Oklahoma game?
We've talked about the Oklahoma game for an hour and a half. An hour and a half. I don't know that we've ever talked about any game. Maybe Alabama. I'm sure we talked about Alabama for a long time. I'm sure we talked about Georgia.
I just
for
mean
a
like
long time.
not counting college.
No. I'm making a broad statement. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we had a long UCF segment here or there. I don't think even the two the AAC title games, did we talk about Tulsa and Houston?
No, I'm sure most of the Houston talk was revolved around like if they won.
Dana, yeah, or making fun of Dana.
You might not be able to make fun of Dana for much longer.
It's unfortunate. It really is. I like that guy. He's got some chutzpah.
Yeah, he's got something, all right.
All right, let's get into. We're going to do the Big 12 look ahead on the nightcap tonight. So let's do the home field segment here on what is an awesome week of games on paper. I want to get to something after I do this, but it's home field's can't miss kickoff. They're here to make sure you are ready for the 2023 football season. They have a promo code. If you have not got your Cincinnati Bearcats home field apparel, it's BCJ 23. New customers get 15% off, and the gear is awesome. Awesome. Joggers, hoodies, quarter zips, crew necks, t-shirts, you name it. Any type of like look that you want, they have it. They have the old school designs. They're all fantastic. It is super comfortable. The material on everything that they sell is exactly what you're looking for. So BCJ23 is the promo code, and they will get you taken care of. Homefieldapparel.com.
I don't have any. I'm not going to say any specific Big 12 game, but even if the Bearcats lose this week and say they lose next week at BYU, I'm not super discouraged just because, like, I think the Big 12 is kind of not great.
It's down. I think down is a fair word.
And
so far,
I think we had realistic expectations that like 5 or 6 wins, like, yeah, I mean, we're not going to like hang a banner, but like we'd be like, yeah, that's a pretty good starting point with a new staff.
You mean conference wins?
Yes. No, I mean just like overall 5 or 6 wins for the season.
Okay. I don't think anybody would be happy with 5. I think people would be happy with 6.
I mean, I said 5 and 7, 6 and 6, so like it's not that big of a difference to me. But like after these next 2 games, 4 of the teams you play the rest of the year are, I'm not saying UC will be prohibitive favorites or whatever, but like they're not good either.
Right.
So it's, it's still very much a schedule that could turn out well for them just because of who they're playing is not having good years at all. I mean,
they just appear to not be good.
Yeah.
Like there's not a good quarterback in that bunch that you're talking about. Their defense doesn't look like, just as a whole, like, okay, of course, Iowa State looks to be pretty good on defense, but
yeah, they can't score. They scored 7 points against OU.
Yeah. And I mean, there's some not great teams in the middle to bottom of the Big 12 right now.
Yeah. I mean, there's a quite a game this week between Iowa State and Oklahoma State that, like, the loser of that one's not feeling great about the rest of their season.
Kicking off Big 12 play with a, oh boy,
we better win this one.
How we looking? Not good.
Yeah. So yeah, it's, we want to win them all, but we were also pretty realistic, I think, of what the Bearcats had this year.
Yeah. I mean, what's your most intriguing game of the week? The most watched game of the week is a no-brainer.
It's also
going to be Colorado, Oregon.
No.
You don't think that's going to be the most watched game of the week?
Over Ohio State and Notre Dame, the 2 biggest brands in the entire country?
They had 9.5 million people watch Colorado State in the middle of the fucking night.
I don't disagree, and it might do a better number, but like there is no more intriguing.
I'm talking about the number. Like who? Like People are going to the 3:30 window. Everybody is going to be watching Colorado, Oregon.
Is that game at 3:30?
Now, yeah. If you told me they were going up against each other, I would agree with you.
I mean, that doesn't like that's not even on my radar of games to watch this week.
Dave, the hype around Colorado right now.
Yeah, and it'll be 35-7 in the second quarter.
So they might lose. They might not. If the
Without
game is
without Travis Hunter,
Yeah.
I'm not sure how they keep Oregon from scoring 60.
If that game is close in the second half, it's going to do one of the largest numbers in college football history. Because people right now are just fascinated by Colorado. Everybody is watching. Everybody.
Oh yeah, the Colorado State stuff was insane. That like at 2 a.m, it was still pulling like a ridiculous like 800,000 people were still watching. Millions. Yeah, but to me
were watching that game.
To me, it's Ohio State Notre Dame because it's gonna tell us more than likely it's gonna tell us something about both teams, and the winner of that game. Like if Notre Dame wins that game, I'm like that's a playoff team. Like they're good. They're good.
You know what I love about that game is we have seen the past 3 days, nothing but Notre Dame folks being like, we can't let Ohio State fans in. And they mentioned Georgia, and they mentioned some of the other games at Notre Dame, the big games where the opposing fan bases all get in. And I've not seen anybody once mention the most dominant takeover of Notre Dame Stadium that maybe the world has ever seen. What that place looked like a fucking Christmas tree.
Yeah, it was definitely our game or the Georgia game, that's for sure.
The Georgia game was maybe Georgia might have got a few more people in there, but I have not seen Cincinnati mentioned, so that made me laugh.
Whatever.
On the whole,
Yeah.
Don't let the opposing fan bases in. Guess what? There's gonna be a lot of Ohio State fans.
Oh, I'm sure.
There.
But yeah, I mean, there's
Notre Dame fans aren't stupid. They buy their season tickets. They look at the marquee game and they go, I will be able to pay for my season tickets if I sell my 2 tickets to an Ohio State fan to come to that game.
This is definitely a week where I'm happy we have a noon game.
There's going to be a lot.
Because if it's a 3:30 game, you miss all the games at 3:30 plus by the time you get home. And if it's a 7 o'clock game, you're tailgating during the 3:30 games and then not seeing the games at 7.
So there are only 3 ranked teams that play at noon. Michigan, Rutgers, Florida State, Clemson, which is going to be interesting, at least, maybe. And then Oklahoma, Cincinnati. 3:30, you've got Colorado, Oregon, Utah and UCLA both ranked. This is a fascinating fucking game to me. Ole Miss, Alabama.
Have you seen the stuff Lane's been pulling?
Oh,
where in his press conference he said that they could tell that he took away the
defensive coordinators.
And then Andy Staples has this like conspiracy out that Lane is like, if you put Lane's press conference right next to Nick's, that he's like mimicking him, like with his mannerisms and like how he moves his hands, and like they're just pulling. Like,
say what you will about Lane.
Oh, I will say a lot. He's unbelievable. I love the man.
He is the greatest troll in coaching history.
I mean, what did he drop? He dropped some tweet with some Taylor Swift song like Castles Crumbling or something that's like no one even listens to. But the lyrics are absolutely about like Saban being too old and Alabama falling apart. Like,
yeah. He's so good at it.
I mean,
he's so good at it.
I still believe this with all of my heart that at Tennessee we would have won the national championship, and 3 years later we would have been on probation, and it would have all been worth it.
Yeah. I think Ole Miss beats Alabama. I mean,
if that Alabama offense is anywhere like it's been the last 2 weeks, then yeah, I totally agree.
I look again.
I mean, how bad did Jalen Milroe have to be in practice for them to go, let's start Tyler Buckner?
Right. if there is any point that Tyler Buchner is your starting quarterback, you're bad. You're not good. You're not good. I don't care how good the rest of your team is. If you look at your quarterback room and go, that guy's our starter, you're not good. You're not good.
I mean, then guys I was listening to today were talking about, like, well, what if Saban is then pulling one over where he started Buchner on purpose while Tommy Rees is developing a totally new offensive game plan with Milroe for this game?
These are people that did not watch Tommy Rees coordinate the Notre Dame offense.
And they're just gonna run the ball 50 times with Milroe.
Maybe the worst hire in the country. Tommy Rees is offensive coordinator at Alabama. Maybe the worst hire in the country. Who tricked Nick Saban into that?
It's an interesting
and why was it Lane Kiffin? Like, if you're gonna connect, if you're gonna do the thing,
the Charlie Day,
the dots. Lane Kiffin tricked.
There are
Nick
so
Saban
many
into hiring Tommy Rees.
There are so many good storylines in this game. Like,
yeah,
Ole Miss's defensive coordinator is Pete Golding, who was at Alabama, and every year that Alabama didn't win the national championship of recent years, he was Alabama's fans' number one reason why. So if they go in and they win with him as defensive coordinator, Alabama fans are going to lose their minds.
Oh, I love it. That might be the most interesting game of the weekend.
Well, it'll be
like
it'll
just
be a fun
from like,
one. But
just from our like
it would also be
line.
an extremely Ole Miss thing and an extremely Alabama thing for Alabama to go in there and win 42-0 or 42-10, like something like that, something absurd.
Yeah, and Lane just gets smacked down. Duke, UConn, whatever. Miami
Duke,
Temple.
Duke,
come on. Tennessee, UTSA hasn't been great, like for the Roadrunners.
Frank Harris is very compromised. Something's up with his knee. Yeah, I'm not. I feel like this is a game that Milton could connect on several deep balls. Like, UTSA has not been the same G5 darling that they were last year. You're on mute.
Sorry. Arkansas at LSU.
LSU plays
a lot more interesting game before Arkansas got beat at home by BYU.
Well, if LSU plays like they did last week, they're going to blow their doors off. I mean, that was as precise as that was a Brian Kelly ass offense last week.
Yeah. What? I don't know how he it's so spotty now. He was one of the greatest offensive minds in the country, and it's like every 3 weeks it looks like a Brian Kelly offense, and the rest of it is like, what are they doing?
Well, you had the Florida State game to start, and then an FCS game, so it's like,
yeah,
you don't really have a good sense. But to like go into Mississippi State, who's not great, but like you just went in there and I mean, Malik Neighbors had like 10 catches and 150 yards in the first half.
Yeah. Another super interesting game on Fox, the Pac-2.
Oh, I wish that game wasn't.
I
wish that game wasn't the same time as I need that to be like 10 o'clock FS1.
Right. Why is that not the late night
Oregon
game?
State, Washington State, that's a great game.
Yeah. Oregon State ranked 14, Washington State ranked 21. Both exciting offenses. Like that should be a really good game. Florida, Charlotte, whatever, Georgia, UAB. If Georgia struggles there, then like they're going to win the game. But if that's not a dominant performance, we have to start questioning 2023 Georgia a little bit, right?
I think that'll be a pretty dominant performance.
I think it will too. But it should have been last week and it wasn't.
I'm not questioning anything about them right now, just until like they play someone worth a shit.
Texas Baylor. If you're Texas, you can't.
Baylor's
the line's only 15, Dave.
Not have their starting quarterback again, like.
Yeah, the line's only 15, which is a little bit of a head scratcher, right?
Yeah, but like, how much higher is it really going to go? Like,
If they don't have their starting quarterback, Texas should beat them by 30.
they should, but
They're
if you
1-2.
had the line at you had the line at 30, you're not, or in the 20s, you're not like that's not what Vegas
Nobody's going to
wants.
bet it. Yeah.
Right.
Ohio State, Notre Dame. Ohio State is favored by 3.
Notre Dame
At
gets
Notre
some
Dame.
starters back on defense. Sam Hartman's been a dog. He transferred to Notre Dame, and now he looks like Jesus. And the guy from Archer, I saw like a thing.
Where he looks just like the guy from Archer.
Yeah. When he like goes incognito and grows his beard out or something. Yeah, like Ohio State put it to Western. I was kind of surprised Western didn't score more than 10 points, but we'll see.
Iowa State, Penn State.
No, Iowa, Penn State.
Or Iowa, Penn State. Sorry, my bad. If Drew Aller is as good as we think, like this shouldn't be close. I know the Iowa defense is good, but
Iowa defense
again,
it's still the number one defense in the country per SP
Right.
plus.
they're also like last and all. Like
they're up. Last year they were 91 offense, 1 defense. This year they're 81 offense, 1 defense.
Oh, well, shit then.
Yeah.
I'm taking Iowa.
Coming in strong. The drive to 325.
So if you're Pitt, you're looking at a stretch of like Cincinnati, West Virginia, North Carolina. A month ago, it's like, okay, we beat Cincinnati, we win the backyard brawl, like we got a chance to like prove where we stand in the ACC. And now you're going to get your doors blown off by North Carolina. Although
they're not standing anywhere right now.
Have you seen the line?
On Carolina Pitt?
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
I want you to guess.
I've been quite busy.
I want you to guess.
Where's I don't even know where the game is.
The game is at Pitt.
North Carolina -7.5.
Yep. Nailed it. That's 2
weeks in a row that you nail the spread and I nail the spread.
7.5 is exactly the fucking line. I may take the rest in my like gambling account and bet on North Carolina.
That seemed like, what do you know that I don't know? Because I mean, if Phil Dracovic, because North Carolina's defense is actually good.
You're right.
Like they're not just like throw it around and try to outscore you. Like they can actually play some defense.
And Pitt can't play offense.
Well, is this like there's no way he can be this bad 3 weeks in a row type of thing?
I guess. I don't know. USC, Arizona State. The line is 34.5, Dave.
What's the over under?
62.
Oh God, hammer the over. The USC
USC
over
is going to score 56.
The USC, and granted, they didn't cover the over against Stanford because it was 49-3 at halftime, and they didn't even try in the second half. I was like, God damn it, Stanford, you can't score like 1 touchdown against the scrubs. Give me this over. Like you can't just have USC do it on their own every game.
And then Cal, Washington. Washington at home, 20.5-point favorite.
Washington is awesome, and it's too bad that like no one's really seen them play this year.
Yeah. Can Michael Penix win the Heisman? Boy, you talk about a referendum on Tom fucking Allen.
Yeah, because I mean, like, I don't know their schedule. Like, I'm assuming they play Oregon. I don't know if they're playing USC, but like, if they win both those, if they win the Pac-12 and go to the playoff, then hell yeah, you can.
Cal, Arizona, Oregon, Arizona State, Stanford. They end the season with, as the rankings stand now, at USC. Number 5 USC on November 4th. November 11th, they host Utah. Number 11.
Yeah.
Saturday, November 18th, they're at number 14 Oregon State.
Oh my
Saturday,
God.
November 25th, they host Washington State. 4 ranked games to end the season for the
Huskies. They don't play Oregon?
No. No, October 14th, they play Oregon.
Oh, God. Yeah, I mean, if they run the table, yeah, he should probably be in New York.
October 14th, Oregon, and then November 4th to November 25th at USC, Utah at home, at Oregon State, Washington State.
I mean, I haven't really got to watch them, and they've got he's a first round pick, and they got 3 receivers that are probably first or second round picks.
Yeah.
They're a very fun offense to watch.
If he wins the Heisman, I fire Tom Allen immediately. That guy was dog shit at Indiana.
I'm not sure Tom Allen will make it to the Heisman to be fired.
It's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. I got you. All right. You got anything else?
I don't think so. Anything on the basketball front?
Jace Richardson and Tyler Betsy in town for visits this weekend, official visits. We'll see if there's maybe a surprise unofficial visit. I'm still working on confirming that, but
All right, just tell
some
me.
people have been
Very,
very good sleuths on who that might be. But when there is more, it will be on the board.
Well, I've had no time to sleuth, so you can just tell me when we end this
I'll
broadcast.
let you know when we get done. Yeah, that's fine. All right. That's going to wrap it up. Thanks to all our sponsors. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to Colin Kennedy. Great show. We will we'll see you next time. It's the BCJ podcast presented by the Holy Grail right here on BearcatJournal.com.